I'm Rob Shields, and this is Peace Talks, the podcast that covers everything to do with competitive jigsaw puzzling. Jim Eakins is a world-renowned puzzle commentator. Mari Black is a world-class puzzle competitor. Between them is some of the most deeply thoughtful puzzling that I've ever encountered. Mari Black and Jim Eakins, thanks for joining Peace Talks.
Thanks for having us. This is a treat.
Yeah, you're the best, man. I'm excited for it.
I'm a bit intimidated, I have to say, taking you both on at the same time. I'm also a little concerned that this may have been a giant mistake because we could talk for hours and hours and hours with either one of you, and having you both on at the same time may be just more than I can handle, but in the best possible way. But let's begin like we always do at the beginning. Mari, what's your earliest jigsaw puzzle memory?
My earliest jigsaw puzzle memories are when I was a kid, like little bitty 4, 5, 6 years old. I have loved puzzles my entire life. As we all know, puzzles are expensive. Nice puzzles are really expensive. I did not come from a family who does well with expensive. So it would be the treat of treats to get a Ravensburger puzzle. And my mother would save and save and save. And as the specialist treat, I'd get a Ravensburger. I think at the height of my collection, I had 6 or 7 of them. And I knew them inside out, upside down. And I remember very clearly the thing that I would do was I would dump them all out together in a big pile and mix them together and do them simultaneously on the carpet in kind of a semicircle. So I remember doing that very clearly. This was before I knew that like chess players did simuls like that. I guess that's what I was creating.
So this was, you were obsessed from a very early age.
Absolutely obsessed. Yeah.
And was this puzzles specifically, or was this, did you have this level of obsession with a whole class of things or a wide variety of things?
Wow, I feel attacked or seen or all of these things. Yes, I am. I am absolutely a person who.
What kind of crazy person are you, Mari?
Every kind of crazy. When I something catches my fancy, I grab hold with every appendage and do not let go. But jigsaw puzzles specifically were a thing that I don't know what it was. It spoke to me. I love the images. I love the tactileness. I love the let's figure it out-ness. It absolutely snagged me way early in life.
Jim, do you have a similar deep and abiding passion for jigsaw puzzles as long as you can remember?
No. In this as short of words, no. I've been racking my brains because I'm sure at some point somebody gave me a jigsaw puzzle and I was like, oh, that's cool. And like didn't open the box for a long time. Like jigsaw puzzles never spoke to me in a way that I was like, oh, this is really exciting. Like that, I'd never had that experience. And so it wasn't until we got together that I even really thought about jigsaw puzzles as a thing to do.
Did you have other things that obsessed you in that way?
Oh, I'm a math nerd and through. So I did a lot of science stuff. I'd play a lot of video games, that kind of stuff. And I would run those into the ground like crazy. And I like played chess and that kind of stuff. But I don't think I had a singular, this is the one thing that my world revolves around kind of excitement.
Was there early indicators that deconstructing approaches to things was going to be a passion or skill of yours?
To look at puzzling and all that?
Just like, spoiler alert, one of the great things about you in terms of your, I'm going to say professional, but I don't know, I assume you're not making a living at this, puzzling career is the insight that you bring into people's approach to puzzling. Now, we'll get into this. I assume that there's some collaboration in the fact that you have a world-class jigsaw puzzler in your household, which may make that sort of easier to have those observations, but they don't come from nowhere. So I'm just curious as to whether like you were interested in trying to figure out how to get through levels of a video game or other things that may have been early indicators of a particular passion that led to the skill that you have.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm always interested in how to solve things or what is the efficient way to do stuff. This might sound kind of weird. My dad is a professional magician, and so watching how somebody does something and try to work out how are they doing this is a thing that I've like been doing for years and years and years. And so that, that might be a component of it. And kind of why I got into science is how is this thing working and how can we understand it a little bit better?
Jim and I have this in common, like before we even met, that we both have a lot of experience in pedagogy. Like I'm a musician professionally. My family My mom's an amazing musician and trainer of teachers. And so it's like the household trade was, how do you teach? How do you break this apart? How do you figure out what's going on and doing that analysis? And then when I met Jim, he came packaged with that same kind of analysis, but from the science part. And then later I learned about the, dissecting magician tricks. So we were both kind of doing this our entire lives, and we applied to everything. And jigsaw puzzles was one of the things that came down the conveyor belt.
That's amazing. So now, Jim, was your dad the kind of person who would explain to you the tricks, or did he leave it up to you to figure it out?
Really depends. Like,
were there trust issues? I feel like having a dad who's a magician could bring trust issues into the play.
So he's also a ventriloquist, so he's always putting words in my mouth. It'd be like, time to go to bed. Okay, Dad. I'm like, I didn't say that. That's what I heard. Right? It was that kind of thing.
Rob is
really
dead.
Cool. But there would be times where he would be like practicing a trick, and he'd be like, okay, did you see anything weird? Like, did you see the flash? Did you like?
But as part of his getting better.
Yeah, but it was also a thing of like, hey, I'm gonna do this thing to you, haha, and that was always really fun. And I absolutely adore him, and just he's a wonderful human being that I really look up to.
Mari, when you thought about jigsaw puzzling, was there ever a time where you were like, I wonder if I could do this fast?
No.
As opposed to, so you were working in complexity, if I understand things correctly. You were piling things together and trying to do it all at once.
And it is always driven by the scarcity. Because again, I couldn't afford puzzles at any stage of my life. I would take them out of people's trash. I would take, we're talking about the worst murky Milton Bradley images you could possibly imagine, missing 8 pieces, smelling like goodness knows what. I'm the street urchin of puzzling. And so when I would get a puzzle, the whole game was, how long can I make this last? And I would savor them and just go as long as I possibly could. And when Jim met me and figured out that was a part of things, he experienced me trying to make it last as long as possible. And the game for a while was, let's find a puzzle that's hard enough that takes Mari a long time. And it just never came around.
Those don't exist?
Well, they do, but it's like, I love them, but I would literally try to make every puzzle last as long as I possibly could.
It was just so weird because I'm over here like, the problem is solved. You've it's
you
done.
did the puzzle.
Just you did, just put the things in. You've solved the problem.
Nobody does Sudoku again.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, what is just do it, finish it. And then the weirdest thing, you would be working on these things for hours and hours and hours. And then just in the most monk Zen-like thing, you'd be like, well, that was fun. And then you just tear it up. And that boggles my mind. Like, you spent so much time working on this and like, it's over. I'm like, what is happening? Like, it was the most incongruous bananas thing I'd ever seen. And I still to this day, I struggle with that mentality of like, well, it's done, fine. And then just crumble it. It's madness to me.
Mari, are you a journey is the destination sort of person in general, or just with jigsaw puzzles?
I don't know. I like destinations an awful lot, but the the jigsaw puzzling, the process is just so much fun. And if it's sort of like when the dog brings the ball back, you can throw it again, right? If I crumble it up, I can do it again. So I'm very zen about it. It's done, and I crumble it immediately. And Jim doesn't get it, and that's fine. He's probably right.
I feel like Jim's got to get it at least these days, because he's witnessed it so many times where everybody, like, especially when you're doing like a pairs or a teams event, but even like most people when they're putting a puzzle together in competition are like, yep, that was great.
Yeah,
and then
you can see hundreds of sunrises, and they still amaze you every time, Rob. Like, it just every time it gets to me. We have a running thing where if I like help with a puzzle at all, if it's just like if I put a piece in something like that, the rule is that it has to stay out overnight so I can wake up to success.
Jim touched this one.
Yeah. I'm like,
literally,
hey, we gotta wake up to success. You leave it out.
Yeah, it's called Wake Up to Success, and it means you touch it before sunrise, you die.
So, Jim, if it were up to you, would you be like gluing them onto some backerboard and using them as art in the house?
No, I think there's some images that are really cool that would be neat to do that with. But I think there's a lot to be said for savor the success that you just had in doing the thing. and look at it. You just spent like 4 hours working on the thing. Like it's okay. It's okay. You can let it sit there for a minute, man. It's all right.
I think in the audience that we're talking to, Jim, I think this might be a you problem, not a Mari problem, unfortunately.
Oh, 100% it's a me. There's so many other puzzlers that like tear it out before before they're even thinking about how it went or anything like that. They just dig into it. And it boggles my mind because I'm like, you just put so much effort into this and then it's just gone. Pure Kaiser Soze. It's crazy.
It is ironic, though, because Jim feels this way very genuinely, but he's also the person that caused me to completely rotate my puzzling world from how long can I make this last to how fast can I do this? Because we know the exact date where my world rotated 180 degrees because Jim is the one who found out about speed puzzling. I had no idea it existed.
So little backdrop on that one. It was during lockdowns, and I had this pomegranate 500 MC Escher puzzle that is a really cool image. Like, I'm a huge fan of Escher. It's just wonderful artwork and tessellations, all that. But she was working on it, and it was taking like a while. It was a grind. And then after we got done, she wanted to do it again immediately, and that was weird to me. Like it didn't add up. I'm like, you just did it. It's fine. Like let's move on. Let's go.
That's right. Sometimes these are painful. You don't have to do the pain again.
Yeah, you don't have to go through the rose thorns. It's okay. Like you don't have to do this. And so I was like, okay, this is like chugging through. And I helped you on the first one. That was one. And then the second time I was like, go have fun. And I saw one of Karen Puzzle's video about worlds. I think, Karen Puzzle's the gateway drug for a lot of speed puzzlers.
100%.
That popped up, and I was like, hey, maybe if Mari gets the puzzles done faster, we can hang out more.
Famous last words, right?
Yeah. I done made a goof. I forgot that if you give somebody that's type A plus a competition format thing, it's gonna shift quite a bit. Yeah,
it was hilarious because Jim came to me and said, they do these things for speed, right? And I immediately said, they do not. Because who would do that? Why would you make it go
literally
faster?
You're trying to make it last as long as possible.
Exactly right. And not just subconsciously, like deliberately prolonging my entire life. Why would you do it for speed? Like, you could drive a car with your feet, but not a good idea, right? So we got a couple online contests just to try it out with speedpuzzling.com, Jonathan Clough, and it was January 10th, 2023, and that was the day that the puzzles were supposed to go as fast as possible rather than lasting as long as possible. And the rest is history, but it's all Jim's fault, the speed stuff.
My bad.
or you're good. It's been pretty fun. All the things that have happened as a result of that. They do these faster, right? They do that.
Just one small phrase pivots an entire nation.
Maybe not a nation, but certainly my entire world. Like, it's so funny that's like you look back, it's like, did I know the moment things happened? Or did I know the moment it begins? And in this case, we actually do. We know the exact date and the exact minute and exactly where we were sitting and what sentence it was. And yeah.
Well, and oddly enough, I did kind of win out because you do them faster, and we do get to hang out more in that capacity, which is really cool. So net win, really.
I would 100% expected that just would have meant more throughput. Like, there's just been more puzzles coming through.
Oh, there's that too. But we hang out because we've formed a partnership around the puzzles, and we do a lot of the, like, we often talk about that with speed puzzling, we're one brain. We share a brain. I am the hands and Jim is the eye in the sky, because I like doing them. Jim does not like doing them, but he loves watching from a distance, up above, and you can notice things from that perspective that you can't when your hands are in the pieces. And so we have been kind of two sides to the coin on this thing, which is really fun.
All right, I'm going to ignore the T's on there to go much deeper into that area. We will 100% get there. But I want to back up a little bit.
Didn't know there was a T's.
Yeah, I didn't either, but sure.
Yeah. We work together on this. Really? How do you do that? No, I'm not asking that question yet. So, Mari, you would eventually get into competitive jigsaw puzzling. Were you a competitive person before jigsaw
Yes.
puzzling?
Yes. I'm a competitive person in general. Like, I always want to do things better and more and optimize. I'm also, as a musician, I'm a competitive. There are lots of musicians who are not competitive, who do not compete. I am a career competitor. I've been to world championship levels on a few different things. So
And
I'm no
one.
yes, and also not one. Like,
Sure.
you can't be a professional level competitor and not expect to get lots of both, because
Hmm.
most competitions, even the most objective um competition formats where it's just like the clock and it appears really hardcore, like just by the numbers, the top tier is what you're trying to get into. But among the top tier, the order in which those people go on a given day depends so much on the day. And it's almost like a lottery. And I knew this coming into puzzling, which I'm now extremely grateful for. Because in the music world, like the fiddling championships that I would go to, the top Scottish fiddlers in the world, everybody knows who the top 12 are. We all know
Hmm.
they're household
Mhm.
names. There's no question. Once you make that tier, it's it. You're a champion, not the champion, a champion. And then on a given day, what order do we go in? Totally depends. And we're not threatened if one of us is sixth and one of us is first and the other. It's just like, well, that was your day. Well done. That was great. And the next day we're going to shuffle. And so it's a tier system, not a, one person, one day thing.
Which feels like an extremely healthy way of thinking about this. We've talked about it a lot on this show, but like the idea that you can, any number of factors come into play as to how you will perform on that given day. Like, could be that you woke up just with a headache, or it could be that the puzzle spilled out in the best possible way for you. There are any number of factors that help that come along, and understanding that your first or fifth place on a given day may be up to factors that you can't wholly control, and that what you're looking for, correct me if I'm wrong, is a general sort of average of goodness as opposed to an instance of goodness, feels like
Yes.
a great way of thinking about this. So, stepping back for just a second, do you prefer fiddling? Is that the right verb I should be using?
I
Violining? What is the right thing that I should be talking about?
You don't have to worry about that one. I'm a multi-style violinist, so I play all different styles where they call it a violin, they call it a fiddle. It doesn't really matter. It's the thing that I love to do.
Which was earlier, your first puzzling memory or your first fiddling memory?
Probably my first fiddling memory. The violin is what I do with my entire life. Jigsaw puzzling is a hobby. Now, this is Jim's always joking that I'm not type A, I'm type A plus. That for me, a hobby is something that goes semi-professional immediately. But music is my life. The puzzling is what I do on the side. Actually, it's kind of the dirty secret among the musicians that they're like, she does this really weird thing in between rehearsals. But it's kind of sacrilegious sometimes as a professional musician to do other things. So this is all that we're talking about today are my dirty secrets.
Interesting. All right. Well, so
yeah.
we'll need to make sure this doesn't circulate amongst the fiddling crowd.
Oh, it will immediately. I'm totally fine with that. I love dirty secrets.
Were you competing from a very early age, Mari, on the fiddling front?
Yep. My first fiddle contest was when I was 6. I told that story on The Moth a couple of years ago. So, yeah. So fiddle contests were just a part. A lot of these styles have competitions, which are just an excuse for a bunch of musicians to get together and jam all day, just play tunes all day with all different ages mixed together. We loved hanging out with the senior fiddlers, the 80 plus, who are just amazing. They know 10,000 million tunes and they have the greatest dance feels, and they love the young fiddlers. They adopted all of us. They call themselves the Fiddle Geezers, and they raised us as like a whole village. And so you'd go just for the joy of the day, and then the contest was just the excuse to get together. And you'd be in the middle of jamming and somebody would be like, "You're on in a second. Oh shoot, okay." And you'd run on stage and play your program and then go back and have more jam session fun. But there were big trophies involved, and I liked that a lot.
You like hardware?
I do like hardware.
Did you ever feel pressure in terms of competing? What I'm trying to sort of draw the path here of is was this a great way of you gaining experience on the competitive front, and did that carry over into puzzling, or was it a different class of things, or were you like sort of bulletproof to competitive pressure to begin with? And so
Nope.
tell me a little bit more there.
Yeah, no, you're you smell exactly what happened there, Rob. It 100%. I get very affected by competitive environments. It psychs you up, and it can psych you out if you have if you let the relationship with it kind of overbalance the joy of doing the thing. I have been challenged by that my entire competitive career from age 6 all the way up through national and world championships. It goes in and out. Some days I'm really great with it. Some days I'm not. I've been heavily, heavily trained and coached and supported to develop the relationship with competition in a healthy way. But I don't think there's anybody who really cares about something and competes at a high level that hasn't struggled with this, because it's such a natural thing. Nobody there are a number of things that my mom, who is my head coach for a lot of the music stuff, and then my other coaches would say to me all the time. I can remember from my earliest days. One of the things they always say is like, look, nobody goes to one of these things, right, all the time and the effort and the money preparing and traveling and going there. It's a huge investment to compete in anything, right? Nobody does that unless they want to win. And that's okay. But if that's the only thing you want out of it, you're almost guaranteed to have a really bad time because you never know. It's a lottery up at the top. And the higher you move up in the echelon in the sport or the art, and the better you get, the more we're always saying in puzzling, it's so tight at the top now. And it's really true, because there's so many excellent people. And so you have to be in it because you want to be around the excellence and you want to push yourself for excellence. And it's really nice if somebody hands you a piece of hardware and they say, you are the most excellent of excellent. And that's great. It's really great. But it can't happen to anybody every time. There's nobody who wins 100% of the time. It's not possible. Mm-hmm. So my coaches would always say, if my mom would look me in the eye right before a competition, she'd say, look, if you win today, it does not make you a better violinist than you are yesterday. And if you lose today, you are not a worse violinist than you were yesterday. And that's the essence of the truth. And it's so simple, but it's so hard to really live that in your soul. And it's like something you have to meditate on and like continue to have it sink into your body. And I, when I take the floor musically or puzzlingly, I have to say that to myself. And the days when I truly believe it are always the days that I do the best in the rankings. And the days where I say the thing, but my soul doesn't believe it, bad things happen to me. Things that I get off the floor and I'm like, damn it. Oh, that if I had not been distracted by the prize or the clock or the thing, then I would have gotten a more different result. But it's a meditation, and it's a lesson that you never finish learning.
Is this something that where you're like getting into sort of a classic flow state is the goal here? Like, how do you think about this?
I think you're right on track with that it is a flow state. In the moment, it feels to me like transcending the competition, because making something competitive is always, it's like the excuse to get together, but it kind of cheapens whatever the sport or the art form is, because what we really want to do is celebrate greatness. And when we say we're going to put greatness in order, then we're saying there can only be one greatness as opposed to all 12 of the top, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to transcend the competition-ness of it and really make it about the joy of the thing that you are doing.
How successful are you in doing that in the puzzling realm?
On what day? Right?
I mean, broadly, right? Like writ large.
It's up and down. It's up and down. And I think you can see it in my competition record. Like I know on a previous Peace Talks episode, Rob, you were talking about that I'm one of the most easily trackable puzzlers because I compete all the time.
All the time.
And it was so funny because when I heard you say that, I suddenly had a really complicated relationship with that comment where I was like, oh no. My gosh. No, it's like, not because it was bad. It was true. And like, I didn't realize that. And then I'm like, oh gosh, do I want everybody seeing all my business? And then I heard myself saying those things in my head and I'm like, no, that's not what it's about. I'm playing because I love to play. So if you look at my record, I'm sure people there are people out there who are puzzled by me, no pun intended, because some days it's absolutely brilliant, and some days it's like, what happened? Like, you know, I traditionally have a complex relationship with specifically the solo finals of Worlds. I have not done well at either of the two solo finals of Worlds I've done after outright winning the qual this year, and some of that's puzzle choice, but some of it is like, and some of it's exhaustion and things like that. But I was in a different place in the qual than I was in the final. And in the qual, the room could have been empty. I was just having a blast with that puzzle. And in the finals, I was trying to finish a job, and that makes a big difference for me. And some days I'm wildly successful I'm playing because I love it. Let's have a blast. And some days I'm trying to do a job or bring home a certain result or meet somebody's expectation. And things don't go as well like that. And I think probably everybody can relate, because that's very much smaller than a joy of a thing.
Do you have things that you do in advance of a competition to try and get a hold of those things, to try and bring them into, like, do you have rituals or anything like that? Or are you just like charge forth?
Yeah, I do in the music world. But it's a little bit different, because there we only have, even if we have multiple rounds, it's one competition and it's much shorter. Like a long program competitively musically is 30 minutes. And granted, it's super intense, but I usually would, like, in the music world, I do not go to the venue before the competition. I don't go early because I don't want to be in that environment. And I will always exercise physically. I go for a 3-mile, 5-mile run and just listen to, like, not the music that I'm going to play, but like, trashy pop music, just feel good party stuff. So being physically active, being well rested, sleep is a performance enhancing drug. We all know this. None of us do anything about it. So all those things I do, that's much harder to fit into puzzling, because these puzzling events, particularly if you do solos and pairs and teams, which, who wouldn't? Why would you sit out a round? It's just so physically exhausting, and the rounds are so much longer. So I'm still looking for my balance of what in my music routine I can bring to the puzzle routine. Because, yeah, that definitely balances differently on the time scale and the physical exhaustion.
Yeah, I guess I would have thought of that. I imagine that the music component of things would have been more intense for no reason. But now that you're spelling it out, you're like, yeah, well, the music thing is, you're up and down in tens of minutes max, which can be true in some puzzling situations, but can super not be true in other puzzling situations.
Yeah, and even if each puzzle round was only 10 minutes, it's still, I'm doing at Worlds 3 rounds of individual, 3 rounds of pairs, and 2 rounds of teams, right? I'm doing 8 rounds in not that many days. I'm doing it over 3 or 4 days. And in the music world, we never have 8 rounds. And if we do, if it's a tiered competition, often it's spread out months apart, where there will be a state qualifier, and then a couple months later, then you're at the whatever the regional, and then 3 months later is the national. Like you don't do multiple rounds on the same day. That's crazy.
Well, and you're also doing that kind of on your own. You're not surrounded by 100, 500 other people doing the same thing at the exact same time. Like that's a wild amount of pressure that just kind of comes up. Like if you're used to a certain format of that kind of pressure, and then suddenly that changes, right? That's really difficult to get used to.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. There's also the tension between with puzzling. We're in this strange place where, like, it's a sport but also a hobby at the same time, and so much of the events are there's a social component, right? And that takes a lot of time and energy as well. Now the music events are also very, very social, but the big events, there's a general understanding it is totally normal that you don't see anybody until they take the stage, and you would never expect somebody to, like, show up in the hotel lobby or, like, go to lunch or come and schmooze. Like, there's a respect for the time and space that a performer has for themselves And it would be unthinkably rude to expect a performer to even show their face until curtain call. And then we socialize after. And in puzzling, everything's kind of all in at once. And I think sometimes I'm like, I love hanging out with people and I love chit-chatting and doing puzzles for fun. And you couldn't find anybody more excited to be social. But sometimes I think I can come across as cold or aloof at an event because I stay away from the floor before my round starts. And I'm really protecting that the space physically and mentally and energy wise. And it's not that I don't want to hang out with people. It's just that I can't do that and compete at my top level because there's not enough gas in the tank.
The episode that will have come out just before this will be with Lauren Kautz, and she was talking about how she talks about you. She says nice things.
I love Lauren.
She talks about a similar sort of thing, about sort of like the time that she needs to get into the zone prior to the actual competition, and the challenge of having people who have watched her career and want to engage with her and say hi. And she loves that and she encourages that, but it's also sort of at odds with like getting into the right headspace in order to really compete at the top level. So I think that we're all sort of, I'm also having this problem. We're all sort of navigating how that works, right? Is like, what is the right amount of time? How can we give people the space to be the best version of themselves, while also like understanding that we want to talk to these super interesting people, and how do we make those things work?
Yeah. Time turners. That's what we all need. Some little tiny time machines. Problem solved. You're welcome.
It's also hard for the people that get calmed down by talking to other people, right? Like,
true. Yeah.
You have people that are like very extroverted, or the way that they release that nervous energy is to like look at their table mate and be like, oh man, isn't it cool that we're here and doing all this? And there can be this really weird at odds situation of one person needing to kind of like close in to focus down, and the other person needing to balloon up a little bit. And you can get this like mismatch of energy right next to each other. That's hard. That's difficult to navigate.
No, you're right. My inclination is more towards talking to sort of get in to relax and, to my neighbors, but I'm always trying to be cognizant of whether that's what they want at the time, especially if you're sitting next to a random person. Like, you just got to sort of judge their energy and determine whether they're the kind of person who's like, yeah, great, let's talk. Or they're like, no, I really need some time and some space. All right, I'm going to circle back a ways here. You guys got into competitive puzzling sort of simultaneously. I'm going to say you guys and got into sort of loosely, but you started doing competitive jigsaw puzzling at speedpuzzling.com in January of 2023. This was instigated by Jim as a life-altering mechanism, and you guys did pairs, right?
Yeah. So once I had the first taste of competition, I really wanted to do more and more and more. And at that time, the speed puzzling pairs competition could only be done as pairs. So Jim made me a deal. He said, if you teach me how to do these things, I will do pairs with you so you can get started. But the understanding is the second you find, quote, somebody good, I'm gone. And I said, great, sounds fun. Yeah, whatever. Like, let's just do this. And so we had so much fun pairing together.
So tell me about what it is that Jim, learned. It sounds like you felt like there was some stuff you needed to know before you could get into this. What did you have her teach you?
Basically everything, right? Like there's this really funny thing, because I do the commentary so people hear my voice and I sound very knowledgeable, and I am now. But everything that I learned was because Mari kind of like walked me through it step by step. She very much like knows what's going on. What was the name of it was like Gardner's Palette, something like that. It was a 1,000-piece rad that was this collage with a bunch of different like flowers in it, and kind of a gradient looking thing. And we put that together, and then I just pulled Mari aside, and I'm like, okay, look, I need you to take this apart and tell me what you're seeing, because I genuinely cannot see it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a whole evening, and we just sat.
It was at least 4 hours straight of me going, okay, now what about this? What do here? And just tearing it apart at a cellular level. Yeah.
We were taking apart, like, it was about 20 or 25 pieces, like a square and a half of this thing, and doing it over and over and over. It was a fabulous evening. And that was kind of like the,
it was a good time.
Nerd. No, it was really fun, but it was also like the birth moment of when we started doing the thing that has put us where we are in speed puzzling right now, that people talk about, that we're the terminology people. And like, no, not really. But the big advantage that we have is that there are two of us in the same house, and a lot of puzzlers who have done things their entire lives, it's just in our head and in our instincts, right? We speak to ourselves, so we don't have to have words for things. It's, how do you do the thing? I don't know, I just do. And for me, that wasn't gonna cut it because Jim doesn't know. I just do, right? He's like, no, you know something.
Well, and
What
I'm
is
very
it?
greedy. I'm very greedy whenever I want to know something. I'm like, okay, I understand that you say you don't know, but clearly it's working this way. Like, show me how you're breaking it down. And she would be like, well, in this one, I'm looking at the lines. I'm like, okay, the lines I can kind of see here, but if it's really hard, what do I do then? And she would start talking about the shape of the pieces. I'm like, okay, well, I can see where a 3-prong and where a 4-prong is, but it's not clear to me why you would pick one or the other. Just like, okay, well, look at the shift. And so really drilling down into that kind of level of things, I'm like, okay, now I can see stuff. Now I can be somewhat competent to sit at a table with you and be a partner long enough for you to go work with somebody better that wants to be doing it.
Yeah, at least you have the knowledge, even if you don't have the skills, as opposed to having neither.
That night was so fun because the reason Jim and I were able to have that conversation so fluently is because of our pedagogical backgrounds separately. That Jim had taught science for years and years and years, and his job was to take, extremely big and intimidating language and make it feel approachable. And I know this because I actually took his physics class back when we first started dating. I know, right? He said, well, you can come audit my physics class if you want. I'm like, great.
What a pickup line.
I will do. No, it was. Because boy could
Man,
teach.
you're giving me way too much credit. I didn't think it was a pickup line. I was just like, oh, you said you didn't have a physics course? Yeah, you can come sit in the back. It's fine.
Hilariously, he did that. And I still have a very clear memory of walking to class on the first morning. And, we'd been dating a little bit. I know how important good teaching and pedagogy is in my life. And if somebody isn't up on that, they're not going to make it to the inner circle. I remember walking to Jim's class on the phone with my mother going, oh my God, I hope he can teach because otherwise I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I remember the dread of like, if he can't teach, do I have to dump this amazing human because I can't handle it? Yeah. And 5 minutes into class, I'm like, oh, we're fine. Like, this is amazing that he
vectored your socks off, man.
No, he did. He did.
I just love the idea of being like, I think you're great. Can you teach me something real quick? I
didn't think
it's huge. It's huge.
I didn't think that was a thing until suddenly I had to experience it. I'm like, oh my God, this is a thing. I'm terrified right now. But he was amazing because I didn't know anything about physics. I couldn't do any of the supporting math. And he got me to, obviously I can't do the real stuff, but he makes me feel like I could do the real stuff. It's a lot like what we did with puzzling. And so that night with the Ravensburger flower collage happened because we both spoke pedagogy so fluently. And we're like, okay, let's figure out what is actually going on here. What are the words for this thing? And when you are forced to have that conversation, what are the words for this thing with another human being out loud, it really changes your approach to stuff. Yeah. So that we were like that from day one with the puzzling.
Well, not even what are the words, but like, what is the thing that is happening here that you need a word for?
Yeah, the process.
Like what is the mechanism here that we need to focus on? Yeah.
It feels like it could have been a very cathartic moment, Mari, for somebody like who has been living this experience your entire life, as far as we know, right? To have somebody who's like, tell me everything. And you're like, okay, here's some stuff. And they're like, no, everything. You're like, all right, here's how I think about this. Like, you ready for this? I'm going to give you everything. Like, in a way, it gives you the opportunity to order your own thoughts.
Yes.
In a way, it gives you an opportunity to sort of deep dive, but also like you get to tell somebody secrets you don't tell anybody else, because why would they care about how you position these pieces, right? But maybe that's deeply meaningful for you. So like, I'm putting a lot of pressure on at this moment, but did it feel sort of cathartic, or was it really utilitarian and like, no, this is a means to an end. I need to get Jim up and running because otherwise I'm not going to be able to do this.
Well, this is going to speak to how incredibly lucky I am in like the situation of puzzling and in Jim and just in my life. That evening felt completely normal to me. Because I have gotten to grow up around like ravenously curious people. And people who I love excellence. I think that's maybe the thing that joins together all the things I obsess about. I love people who do things with excellence, capital E. And it doesn't matter what they're doing. I'll watch like, a truly artistic garbage person for like all the way up the block. It's optimized and the way they swing the barrel into the thing. And, I'll watch that and just be fascinated, right? And
it took me a minute to figure out where garbage and person related in that sentence, by the way, just as an FYI.
No,
I was like I would watch
collectors.
a really terrible person.
Oh, no. Well, no, but I was just thinking of like, what's the most weirdly mundane sounding thing I can think of? Somebody laying bricks, somebody like the most mundane thing. If it's done with excellence and they've optimized the system, I'm totally in. I don't have to love the thing. I love the excellence.
100%. Yeah.
Jim is like this, and he's so blasted curious about everything, and he always wants to know. Like, both of us are kind of perpetual 4-year-olds. We're just going to keep asking why until we get to the center of the atom. And we were already doing this together anyway, so why wouldn't we do it together over a puzzle? He was the one who said, here, do this fast, like
this is your fault.
It didn't feel weird at all. And that's just like, to be able to say that, how lucky am I?
Jim, when you got this download, which again sounds like sort of just par for the course for your relationship, you're like, I have a question and 30,000 more questions to follow it up. Do you mind if I ask all of them? No, go ahead. And so did you come away feeling like you understood conceptually what was going on enough to contribute to the sort of puzzle relationship that was about to engage?
Yeah, I mean, that was the nuts and bolts, is that I wanted to be able to support Mari and help out where I could. And for me to feel like I'm supporting someone, I have to understand the parameters, right? That's a thing that I really believe in, is understand what you're doing and how you're doing it in order to be proactive and helpful. So I was really, really thankful that you could explain all of those things, so that way I could latch on to them and then be relatively competent on things. But it was also a cool turning point, because after I understood all of that, it allowed me to then watch Mari puzzle a little bit and go, oh, okay, well, you said you did it this way yesterday, but now you're approaching it this way. What's different about this? Mm-hmm. What's like it gave me the mechanism in which to really analyze and start figuring out how to approach things a little bit differently.
Was there anything that stood out in the first go round that was sort of like a moment where you're like, oh, that is a thing I would not have considered and seems super valuable now? This moment that happened, this regular moment that happened 3 years ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to pin one down. I think the one that really like locked my brain into the idea of this is a game about optimization and efficiency is whenever Mari was describing not just the shape of the piece, but where the knobs on it were adjusted. Was it adjusted a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, and using that as a conduit to do the shape work in a smaller section, right? So not just a case of, oh, I can see that a 3 goes here. Okay, but how do you estimate which 3 goes there quickly? Mm-hmm. Where that adjustment, like that to me was the moment where I'm like, oh, okay, so we can make this a probability game. This starts to become a how do you look at use those different lenses efficiently to go through. And that was really, really, really.
I would love to be 100% clear here, though, for anybody who thinks that I taught Jim how to puzzle. Like, yes, that is true, but it is also Jim is the guy who can come into any discipline, any situation that he's never seen before. And he'll go, never seen this before. I'm going to ask some questions. And he'll kind of sit quietly for a minute. And then the next second, he's the expert. I watched him do this. No, I'm dead serious. It's unbelievable how brilliant this guy is at picking up systems. And I say this as somebody who is not the person who comes in and is just brilliant. Like, I work very, very, very hard for every yard of ground gained. And Jim is somebody who figures out how to become a thing. And it is absolutely remarkable. And then he's not satisfied with, I'm just going to do the thing that was shown to me. Then he starts thinking in the system. So it was not even a week after the Ravensburger evening of that collage, that he was saying to me, like, hey, I'm watching you flip these pieces over. You realize if you did this, it would be a little more optimized. Like, once he knew what sort of things I was looking at, he immediately went, how can we optimize more? And that's when he became what we call the eye in the sky, is that he could see things because his nose wasn't in the pieces. He could see things that I couldn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Start doing more of the theory crafting.
Yeah. Which you love. He's an amazing theory crafter.
Do you easily accept that kind of feedback?
Okay, easily is a tough word, because I say yes, I love that sort of feedback. I am somebody who's I grew up with very strict world championship level coaches, and I always want to know, right? The time you don't want that information is on the floor. You want it in advance. So I love feedback. But it is also true that in puzzling, we deal a lot with adrenaline, speed puzzling. And that's something that I talk very openly with, engage very openly with in the music thing, about what adrenaline does to you. In short, make you crazy. And so, when I'm adrenalized puzzling, I can often be very snippy with Jim in a way that I'm so not proud of. And so we've had to do a lot of, being careful with each other to protect the relationship as well as the partnership. And, there's certain things that he knows we're not going to discuss this now while you're adrenalized, because it's not productive. And then I have to be like, okay, I'm adrenalized and I'm being defensive right now, and I need to not be, because he knows what he's talking about. And my perception is warped because I'm, chemically unbalanced at the moment.
Like the level of awareness in that statement, I think is pretty profound, though. Is like, we all can sense when we're off. A good chunk of us can be like, yeah, that's probably, like, I'm overreacting, but I can't help myself because this is where I am. But I think really acknowledging that and sharing that and being able to walk around it. Now, I'm not trivializing this, because if I'm recognizing the undertone, this wasn't a light switch moment where you guys were like, oh, by the way, you seem to be over adrenalized. I'm going to talk to you in about a half an hour. This feels like the kind of skills that one develops over life. But the fact that you guys have got there, I think it sort of echoes everything else you're saying, right? Is like, there's like, that interaction didn't go as we expected. How can we improve that next time?
Yeah. We had one last night.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a puzzle probably too late and shouldn't have been. And Jim's like, well, you want me to sit in and watch it? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And we were both too tired, and I got adrenalized early, and he said a thing and it didn't sound right. And the whole run went to... Yeah. Can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
The whole round went to shit, and we had to talk it down afterwards. So it happens all the time.
Well, it's also a thing of, it can be uncomfortable dealing with ambiguity, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff about speed puzzling where there's trade-offs, and it's not always clear what the optimal trade-off is going to be. And so it becomes this thing of, is the information that we're talking about right now useful for trying to clear up the ambiguity? Or is it the case that this information is a little bit of a warning sign of, hey, we might want to make an adjustment here, right? Like we often go back and forth about having pieces in a hand, right? Like what's the maximum pieces in the hand that you should have, that kind of thing, right? And sometimes totally reasonable to overload your hand and use it like a mini board. Sometimes it's also a thing where it's a little bit of a reflex, and you're adding extra touches to do that kind of thing, right? And where that sits really depends on what you're targeting and how you're going through it. And it's not always clear to somebody that's just watching what is going through somebody else's brain at the time, right?
Or necessarily the person who's doing it either. It is very easy to disconnect yourself from habits or reactions, and having an eye on the sky, wander by and be like, you're holding on to a bunch of pieces, and be like, oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah. Or to have, like, this happens too. I'll have an entire handful of pieces. Jim will go, that looks like a lot of pieces. And I'm like, it is not. And it's like, and he goes, open your hand. And there's
you're
30
a lot of
pieces there. It's like, pretty much, right? But you're not aware when you're going so fast and you're so adrenalized. And so the awareness check is really useful, but it takes not just humility is not enough when you're also chemically crazed, right? So I give Jim a lot of credit for giving me as much leeway as he does, that he has a lot of times to take on faith, how much I want the perspective and the viewpoint. And, he's not always right.
Oh, no.
But he's going to raise
right.
a point that I need to be thinking about, right?
Yeah.
And when we disagree about how something should have gone, it opens up so much space for both of us to learn about, like, okay, it's not that usually one of us is not the right one. We both have perspective.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay,
Right.
how did that trade-off go in that situation? How can that carry forward to other situations?
Yeah, my second favorite thing to be is wrong.
Yeah.
Like I love being right, but my second favorite is being proven wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing, because then I'm like, okay, cool. What's the exception here? I love that.
So by my count, you guys did maybe 5 competitions together. Does that feel about right?
It's more than I thought, but I don't doubt it.
So Rob's stats, your ability to sleuth things out is borderline terrifying. It was 6. We did 6 together. On the speedpuzzling.com, what you don't see are the very first in-person contests that we did.
Yeah.
Our first was at the Windsor Locks Library in Connecticut. There was a Paris competition.
Sounds adorable.
I know, it was adorable. It's one of those 3-room libraries. They still do contests. If you're in Connecticut, you should go do one of theirs. It was adorable and so much fun. And it was our first time ever puzzling in person.
We were so nervous.
It's so nervous. And we went and we had a blast. And that was where we met some other folks in person, including Emma Pan and her partner, Robbie, our partner at the time. And turns out they lived several blocks from us. And so Jim, on the way back, he's like, well, there's your Paris partner. And I'm like, what?
Yep.
And he's like, that was the deal. I'm like, what deal? And he's like, the deal that you made with me when we first started doing this. Now you're going to pair with other people. And that was such a complex moment, because I was so excited to puzzle with other people who spoke puzzle fluently, but also it was like getting kicked out of the nest. I'm like, but I love pairing with you. Now we don't get to puzzle? What? Because it was a thing we were doing together.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Jim was 100% right, because he didn't want to have his hands in the pieces all the time. He'd much rather theory craft and be the eye in the sky. And that opened up a whole new territory for our partnership to move to that, rather than just having hands in the pieces. And it's so much more than just being Paris partners. We're crafting our relationship with the sport and in a small way helping to drive it, I guess. I hope.
Jim, the last solo that I show you doing was in August of 23. Ironically, also the first solo I show you doing. Is it possible you've only done one jigsaw puzzle competitively?
Yes.
I think that's highly possible and sounds correct.
So that was the in-person Jonathan's New England Regional Championship, and Jim had come to support me, and they had an extra spot at the table and an extra puzzle, and Jim got D double dog dared into doing it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And we still have 2 copies of that puzzle, and Jim won't let me trade either one.
Well, you can trade one of them, but the other one is,
but it better be my copy.
That's my singular crowning achievement.
I feel like, you need to bronze that other one. That needs to become something that sits on a mantle somewhere.
You might have to. Yeah,
it will be in the puzzling museum in 100 years from now. This was the moment. So fair to say then, Jim, that the direct puzzling solo was not your jam.
No, it's not. Once in a blue moon, I'll pull a puzzle out and I'll be like, okay, let me test this idea out, because if I, in my extreme lack of physicality and everything else, can make this thing work, then that means that there might be something to it. But I don't. So
you pull it out for sort of tactical reasons. So you're not like, I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
You're like, let's try something here.
I call it his research puzzling.
Yeah, I don't get joy from doing the puzzles. It's not the thing that's fun for me. And I know that's bananas, considering how in with the puzzle community and everything that I have, but it's not where I get my joy from, and it's weird.
Well, you get your joy in the puzzle process and the puzzlers. I've never seen anybody so fascinated in a group of people, right? Jim knows. Wonderful. Yeah, and I think I like that stuff, and then I look at Jim. I'm like, oh, I'm not that into it as compared to him. It's amazing.
It's so cool watching people like a swarm of bees move around all these little pieces to link it. That's just the neatest thing to me in the world. And trying to figure out what their process is and sort of picking out, okay, what's the little trick that they're using here? How's this? That is the fun game for me. That is where I get my joy. But the actual, like, okay, I will now pick up this piece and put it in. That's, the problem has already been solved for me on that one. Like there's this it's this goofy joke about like an engineer and a physicist and a mathematician see a fire in a room, and the engineer walks in, picks up a bucket of water, dumps it, and fire goes out. The physicist walks in, pours the water around the fire, and it just eloquently burns itself out. The mathematician walks in, sees the fire, convinces himself that there's a solution, and then leaves. Right? Like I'm kind of on that end of like I don't need to do it to be satisfied that the solution can be made, right? Like,
so you were a theoretical puzzler. Like in the physics world, you're the person who's like doing the theory craft, like you were saying. You're like but like there's a whole practical implementation that is a whole different branch of people that's going to work on that.
100%. It's a totally different subject.
Yeah, I feel you real hard on that. It is a lot of fun, the meta components of puzzling, right? Like, how does this all work? How do the systems work? How does the society work? All of that stuff is just enormously fun. One of the things that keeps me into puzzling is that it has so many parts, like not just the pieces, but like, there's the people part, there's the strategy part, there's the tactic part, there's the organizational part, there's systems of rules, there's systems of logistics, like all of that. Super interesting. This is why I just keep doing these things, because I'm like, well, here's the next most interesting thing. Let's go figure that out. So I'm right there with you, Jim. We are an hour into this, and we haven't even gotten to what I sort of think of as the sort of Mari modern puzzling era, which I'm about to dive into. But just to give you a sense of like what I meant at the very beginning of this podcast when I said I was in over my head, this is exactly it, right? This is us having made it through, like, I don't know, a page of questions max. So in December 2023, it sounds like WickedQuick sort of coalesced. Can you tell us how that came together? Like, you already talked about how you met Emma, but how did WickedQuick come together as an entity?
It was pretty fun. It's become a pattern. And it always sounds better if this story is told by somebody who is not me, because they're a club of people who refer to an experience that they call getting, quote, the Mari Black phone call. And that's where it's so funny. I still think of myself as the new kid in speed puzzling. That's what I feel myself as, the new kid who doesn't know anything and doesn't have the pedigree or the background. Obviously, the passage of time alone will change that, and it probably sounds ridiculous to hear me say it now, but at that time it was true. And I was getting ready to go to nationals, and I was too new and unproven to make any of the big national teams. Nobody was going to call me and say, hey, you want to be on the team? They wanted to see if the flash in the pan was real, right? Like I could put down good times, and I knew people were watching me. And when I showed up at my first regional, there were people going, "Oh, so you're Mari Black, okay?" Like raised eyebrow, but they weren't going to ask me to play. Like I was too new, and so I realized if I wanted a team for nationals that was really going to make a hard run at it, I was going to have to build it. I was going to have to invent it. Yeah. And so Jim and I started looking at stats. We're creepers too. So we love sleuthing on people's stats and looking what's going on. And we can look at a bunch of numbers and understand things behind the numbers. It's not just that this person did this puzzle in 42 minutes. It's that, a few months ago, they were doing similar puzzles in 46 minutes. Something's going on there.
It was looking at not just where they were, but what was the trajectory.
Yeah.
Right. Like, is there continued improvement, or is it sort of sitting in one spot?
I was going to pick up this thread in a couple minutes, but I'll pick it up now, which is that if you look at the performance data of all four of the members of WickedQuick, everybody's performance starting in right around January 2023 through right around September 2024 has this very obvious steep improvement. Yep. across all four of you. And it's really kind of fun to look at because it's like everybody's moving the same direction at the same time. So I love that you were spotting that early. And then it seems like by virtue of this team coming together, it continued that trend, or at least it didn't disrupt that trend.
Yeah. Well, when we were looking at putting together a team that would become WickedQuick, we were looking for two things. And they weren't because we were screening and we were like, god of speed puzzling. It wasn't that at all. Like I'm on this journey too, right? So this is in no way like me condescendingly sniffing out other people. I'm trying to find my people. And what I wanted to do was to have a team that was local, that was willing to practice. Because I had this weird idea. And the idea was a team that practices is faster than a team that is fast. And I made a big bet on that because at that time, the wisdom was to make a fast team, you take the 4 fastest puzzlers from wherever you can get them and you put them on a table. And whoever has the 4 fastest puzzlers, that's the fastest team. And so this at the time was a very radical idea to say, I don't need the fastest people. I need the people willing to work. So we needed geographical proximity. We needed New England region. And we needed people who were interested in changing how they puzzled and interested in sleuthing out how do we optimize and be, because a lot of us have a way that we puzzle and we're comfortable like that and we're uncomfortable trying anything else. And that's not me. I want to be a Swiss Army knife in puzzling. I want to be able to do shape work only. I want to be able to do chaos field. I want to be able to puzzle upside down. So that way when I'm thrown into any group of puzzlers, I can fit myself into that system. There's not just one thing that I do. And that's kind of weird. So we looked for people who showed those traits. And that was tough because we had to do it without knowing people. And like, for instance, Sammy Brownlow, who's amazing and her trajectory has been outrageous. And she has she's the almost unique gift of being able to puzzle the same speed upside down as right side up. In fact, I think she's faster upside down. Her and Becca Taylor are the only people I've experienced who can really do that. And she always laughs that, when I called her, she didn't know me. I didn't know her. And I said, here's what we want to do. And come to my house and puzzle. So she took a train from Connecticut and her quote, she showed up at a stranger's house to stay the weekend, and that's what happened. And so I give all the folks who have done this, who did it on WickedQuick, and people who did it in later teams, like the Whimsy Pieces, my team that I took to Worlds, was the same thing. I needed a team. And my pairs partner, Hannah, said, look, you get us a team, put it together. I trust you. And everybody was willing to take a gamble on my gamble, which is a team that practices is faster than the team that is fast. And let's show up and see how far we can take that idea.
So you had seen Emma before, Emma Pan, and then somehow Sammy caught your eye by way of Data.
Yep, Sammy was Data. And Emily I met by chance. We were watching Emily's Data because she's also incredible. But I had an experience where I got to puzzle last minute as a substitute. The only time anybody has ever asked me to be on their team. I've never been asked. And so I'm the kid picked last for dodgeball.
I mean, part of me is sympathetic to you, but also part of me is like, yeah, you're kind of a badass, so I'm not that sympathetic to you.
Well, I mean, my dream of life is that somebody's going to ask me to be on their team. And so the one time was right after Worlds 23. EB was taking a team to the Big E fair, to this gigantic state fair that they have a speed puzzling competition. And Tiffany was supposed to be on her team, but Tiffany got sick after Worlds. Yeah, and couldn't make it. So EB called me with 24 hours notice asking me if I would fill Tiffany's seat. And I was like, oh my God, somebody asked me to do something. I was so excited. And I went, and Emily was on that team, and I hadn't met her. But it was one of those things, you know how you just know something about somebody? So we didn't get to warm up. It's this terrible, terrible puzzle in terrible conditions, but super fun. And it was birdhouses. And I'm like, I'm looking for the red roof. The pile was split, so I couldn't see anybody see the red roof. And suddenly Emily's hand was in front of me with red roof. And I looked up and I'm like, oh, that's who you are. And it turns out Emily is one of the best feeders in the entire country. And I don't know if she knew it then, but in that moment, I knew it because I was on the receiving end of her superpower, right? And so on that alone, I knew that was a call I was going to make to see if she was interested in the New England team, right?
And did you have a set of, were you looking for a diverse set of skills? Did you have, like, were you putting a crew together?
Well,
Ocean's 11.
yes. I mean, I'd love to say no and not sound scheming and calculated, but yes, absolutely. We were putting a crew together. We have to, right? We have to put a crew together. And
it's more than that. I guess the thing I'm really getting at is that you had a thoughtful approach to what it is that makes a cohesive team, building up, like starting where you would be in the middle of it, right? Like, what are the skills we need to, like, because if you were like, that's who you are, that we need that skill, like that is like that suggests to me you're thinking about what are all the positions we need to make this work.
yes, but also like we're building the plane while we're flying it, right? So to say that I was building a crew and that I theory crafted this whole thing, and with Jim too, right? Because I don't make a move unless we've talked it through.
I assume Jim's handing you a schematic and like
No, we were doing a lot of work together. We were talking things through together and seeing what would work, but it was all based on our theory. And I had a lot of work to do to find what is my place on this team? Who am I as a puzzler? Because that's a very hard question for anybody to answer. And just because you see somebody and you think you know who they are, that may not be completely who they are, right?
Or who they want to be, right?
Or who they want to be,
That's the other thing, right?
That's a great point.
Like a lot of what we were thinking about was, can we get a team together that wants to practice and wants to like work as a unit together rather than four individuals that are just sitting at the table at the same time, right?
That was it.
That's the biggest thing. And we can look at the numbers and like see progression that way and have like, hey, this is a group of people that you might want to reach out to. But when you're trying to make a cohesive team, the biggest thing is, can you work together and want to be better as individuals and as a group rather than just as individuals that are sitting there. And that's one of the huge things that made them really, really successful, is that you guys wanted to work as a group. And everything was kind of built around that. And, there's always this trade-off of, okay, well, maybe this person tries sorting for a little bit and this person tries feet, like, rotating things around, experimenting, which is part of, having the availability to get together to practice fairly often, right? Like that's a huge component of it.
Big part. And really, those were the two things we were looking for with WickedQuick: proximity, willing to practice, and willing to explore things. But at no point, like, I was never the captain of WickedQuick. That was never, I think a lot of people perceived it like that. I think there were moments where I perceived it like that and didn't like it, or there were moments where the rest of the team perceived it like that. It was actually a really complicated thing that we had to work through because there wasn't a captain of WickedQuick, but I was the one who made the phone calls and made the big bet on the practicing.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you had a thing you were trying to accomplish, so it was in some ways owned by you, and you'll forgive me for saying, but you bring a certain level of intensity to these kinds of conversations.
Sometimes very challengingly so. Like, my intensity is really hard to take. I know I can barely take it, and so a big part of
and you're around you all the time.
Yeah, and gosh, but WickedQuick, we did a lot of navigating that, and I really appreciated when the team would, I didn't want to be stuck as the captain because I didn't feel that I knew enough yet. I think later on with the whimsy pieces, that was much more of a situation where I was, we didn't use the word captain, but they decided that I was the instigator, that I was going to form the team. They were asking me to come up with, we didn't get to practice before Worlds anyway much, so there had to be a lot of preparation done and the roles and things like that, and I was asked to take that on, and it was in a way a lot easier because everybody knew what was up, and there wasn't any like, oh, that felt bad and we didn't think it was going to feel bad, or that was weird and we didn't think it was going to feel weird. So it was more straightforward, but there was definitely the wild west of WickedQuick was really interesting, where we had to navigate all that stuff, building the plane while we're flying it, and everybody brought so much to the table every step of the way.
Jim, you had been involved in being the eye in the sky for Mari up until in the early phases of this. I really became aware of you in the context of what I had heard as sort of coaching with respect to WickedQuick. Now, I've heard you sort of downplay that or phrase that sort of differently, but I'm curious as to, I imagine that there is some value that you are bringing to the general team on a fairly regular basis, however you want to quantify that. Did you just sort of scooch in and be like, hey, I see what you guys are doing there? Or give me some context as to how that evolved.
I mean, I joke about it that I wanted to be like the puzzle group band mom and just bring orange slices. Be like, don't forget to bring your orange, that kind of thing.
Everybody hydrate.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was also a thing of Mari kind of giving me space and being like, hey, it'd be really cool if you were an extra set of eyes to kind of see what's going on, because we're busy and we're working on stuff. And so I really got a kick out of watching those dynamics develop and trying to help figure out what's going to be the way that this group of people can do the best that they can with where they're at, where they can be, and how can we choreograph all of this in order to really move the ball forward a little bit. Because there's times early on, and this is 2023, there's not a lot of video of speed team puzzling, right? You don't have a lot to work off of. There's not high level comparisons that you can go off of. So
Jim Eakins hadn't entered the field yet, so we could all learn from it.
Well, like it just wasn't a thing, even thinking about it, recording your own puzzling to watch it back, like that wasn't a thing. It's kind of weird to be like, back in my day, we didn't,
way back in 23.
Yeah, way back in 20. It wasn't a thing to consider. So I really got a kick out of watching those things develop and making little suggestions. And sometimes it made sense and everybody jumped on it. And sometimes it was like, Jim, you're crazy. You're not on the table. This is nonsense. Totally reasonable, yep. Right? There's a lot of pasta you throw at the wall, right? I'm not right every single time, and that's, the world's better for it. But it was very much a thing of like, I'd be walking around, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a couple of pictures of things that I'm seeing here. I'd like do like little 5-second recordings of people putting stuff on a tray and kind of shuffling it around, and we'd talk about it, and sometimes afterwards, Mari and I would put our heads together and try to figure out, okay, what are you feeling on the table versus what am I seeing out here, and what can we reconcile between those two things to try to move this forward a little bit quicker. Like how can we make little adjustments, right? And that goes down into like, which side of the table do you put the box on? Where are you doing your sort piles? How are people maneuvering around each other to get from one side of the table to the other? Like little things like that add up over the course of 1,000 pieces. So where you can chop those off, it helps a lot.
The funny thing is, like, all this is going on, and like looking back, Jim was always going to be involved in whatever team or pair I was in, because we came as a package deal, right? We were sharing a brain before we ever set foot in a room with other puzzlers, Windsor Locks Library. And that's something that I didn't even think about. Like, that probably should have been disclosed to to people we were asking to come play, because they're like, there's no word. There still is no word in speed puzzling for what Jim and I do as a partnership, right? And there's not even a word necessarily for what Jim does. Like, how do you know so much about puzzling without puzzling? There's not a word for that. And well, I mean, there are words that we can be funny about it, but there's not like a socially like easy word that goes, oh, that explains who you are, as opposed to who's this strange guy lurking, right? I mean, we joke that Sammy was freaked out by Jim at first because she's like, who's this man watching us puzzle?
Well, that was also because of the Wampa that was downstairs.
We freaked Sammy out with a stuffed animal, which is hilarious. But the thing that, like, I didn't know that at the time. Again, building the plane while flying it, you make some errors because you don't notice things. And one of my favorite,
what's normal to you isn't necessarily normal to other people.
Exactly right. Yeah, there's this old expression that I love that says, to a worm in horseradish, the world is horseradish. And it's true. And so, like, I'm not going to puzzle without the other half of my brain. Like, of course he's here. But at some point we got enough like weird looks and questions. It's like, what is this guy doing here? And so I was in the position of like needing to explain Jim, to give Jim a legitimate seat at the table, which I believed he deserved. And other people may not know that because they're looking and they say what they can find out what you found out, Rob. You did one solo puzzle ever and you didn't even finish it. What the heck?
And now you're telling me what to do?
No, exactly. Yeah. But I knew at the moment Jim's value. I knew that I wasn't going to go into a project without him. And so I reached for a word that other people understand. And I took from my competitive career. He's a coach. And so we just started saying that word. It's not the right explanation for what Jim was to WickedQuick. WickedQuick had 5 coaches, right? Every single one of us was putting that thing together. Jim, for a while, we were calling him a non-playing captain, borrowing from, you know,
NPC?
there are other, well, there are other sports, right? Yeah, NPC, exactly right. That he's on the team, but he doesn't do. Somebody, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Emma, who called him the coxswain from rowing. Like that you don't row, you're not doing the arms, but your yelling is important, right? What is the word for the person who is not a part of the team, but isn't doing the same thing as the other teams? And so, yeah, that's where the word coach started happening. And it just wasn't the coach. He was the 5th member of that team who you didn't see on the live stream.
Yeah. And I heard you guys talk about it that way early on. And without this context, I don't know that I fully got it. Like the coach was a great way of sort of allowing somebody like me into that conversation without me having to understand sort of the nuance. So I'm glad you used that terminology, but you know, I understand it a whole lot better now. You're right. I'm not sure I would have had any, like, there's not a word you could have grasped for that would have been like, okay, here's that relationship.
Yeah. And there still isn't.
Yeah. Like at the time, I didn't know enough to be able to say, you need to be doing exactly this more efficiently. It was a lot of, I think that this might be improved, or this kind of thing. But it was also just a lot of cheerleading, right?
Yeah,
like
a lot.
Hey, you guys are doing great. And there might be one puzzle that had a really rough time on it, something along those lines. It's like, hey, you guys did really well on this really hard one. Let's look at that up, right? And you know, sometimes we were a little silly about it. I think what was it? I can't remember what puzzle it was, but I was teasing Emily about going faster. And I was like, hey, if you don't finish it up, I'm going to take dinner outside and it'll get cold.
Oh, yeah. And we took a pot of soup outside into the rain to motivate people to go fast. All sorts of funny things happened.
It was under a roof. It was fine. Like it was more just for the lulls. But like little things like that to try to keep things playful and rolling a little bit.
The cheerleading's a huge part of it. And that's a huge part of coaching, right? That you always want to empower people to do what they already do well more. Because it's so easy when you're working so hard on your puzzling and you're not hitting markers that you want to hit. A lot of babies get thrown out with a lot of bathwater, right? It's like, oh, I suck completely. I'll do every Etch-a-Sketch End of the world. And it's like, no, actually, everything was great. You made that pull really fast. You kept a tight target. You dropped the pieces. Then you just forgot to look for your subgroups, right? So there was only one thing that went a little off the rails, and you can go after that one thing without losing all the strength that you brought to the table to begin with. And that's very hard to see when you're on the table. For that, you need an eye in the sky. And Jim is that when I'm on the table.
One of the many things that I love about Jim is that when I'm watching Jim do announcing, he finds the brilliance in every single person, right?
Yes.
Like that, no matter who you're looking at, he finds the thing you can cheer about. And there's always something to cheer about. Like it's a matter of perspective about putting yourself in that headspace and going, you know what? They are 37th down the list, but look what a great job they are doing at getting that part segmented out. And they're about to pivot into this other thing, which is going to be really helpful. And just it's cheerleading, yes, but it's not like you're doing great without any sort of background to it. It's like a level of depth. It's like, it's not just cheerleading. It's like some sort of deep, like support, some foundational, like cheering for the soul kind of thing.
It's good teaching is what it is. And like Jim and I have this in common. We both do this. The big part of teaching is what is already working well, maybe by accident, right? And if you can be specific about it, then you can give the person doing this brilliant thing something to latch onto and to do explicitly and on purpose, right? Rather than lucking into it.
Well, it's also a thing of they genuinely are doing that thing well, so why wouldn't you highlight it? You know, there's a lot of people have different goals in competitions, and without being omniscient and knowing what everybody's doing or what everybody's thinking and all that kind of stuff, my greatest worry whenever I'm doing the commentary is that I'll say something that knocks somebody down or comes across as negative,
Yeah.
right?
Because
Like,
unlike a lot of the competitions, they're listening to you. A lot of them are listening along.
which I didn't know at the time, right? Like over time we found out that people were doing that, but like even before then, if somebody watched it back, I don't want anybody to think, oh man, it took me almost 17 minutes to get just the border together. I'm doing terribly because the person on the microphone was saying, man, that's really slow for this, right? For that person who is their main thing is, I just want to get done in the timeline, that's a great pace. They're like that's genuinely good, and I'm not being condescending about that. Like, that's like, you have to maintain that kind of positivity, because if you get in your head that idea of, oh man, these people are thinking I'm not doing good, I'm not doing right, you're not focusing on the puzzle in order to progress, right? But if you're thinking, hey, this is going well, let me move on to the next thing and keep that going, that's a huge motivator. That's a big deal. And you know, we talk about the puzzle community being positive. It starts a lot with the people who are saying the thing and kind of have the biggest, or at the very least the loudest voices. And I try very hard to stay on the like more positive educational end of that than kind of punching down.
Let's use that as an opportunity to sort of slide sideways here. So you were being a supportive mensch with respect to puzzling over on the WickedQuick side. How did you get into the announcer side?
Oddly enough, this is Mari's fault.
Oh, you guys are terrible for each other.
We traded. Yep. Jim got me into
like ice climbers.
Jim got me into speed puzzling, and I got him into the commentating. And again, it's because we both knew what each other had, and it was like that was the path forward. So I was stalking the Puzzlegram, as one does, and I saw a post from the European Jigsaw Jam from Michelle Casper, EJJ, looking for commentators for the EJJ competitions. And I showed the post to Jim and I said, you have two options. You can put in an application, or I will put one in for you.
It's pretty much how it went down.
That's exactly how that went down. And it's because I knew his voice, and I knew he loved to talk about puzzling, and I know who he is as a cheerleader and a what we now call a coach, and just a personality. He's so fun to listen to, and whatever he's talking about, you want to be a part of it. And so I think you did actually put in your own application. You probably would have been afraid to have me put in one. Like Jim always says, I overinflate things about it. He's like, no, I'm not really that. And it's like, no, actually you are. But he put in his own application.
There's never a perfectly good superlative you won't reach for. So.
Yes, that's true. But there's never one that doesn't apply well here. But Michelle had him come in and...
Yeah, Michelle took a flyer on me, which was really, really kind of her. And I owe her a great deal, and I am always thinking that I want to make sure that I'm doing the best job that I can for her and all the rest of the puzzle community. So it was really nice of her to, you know, let this goofball have a shot on the mic and try not to traumatize everybody in the process.
So had you done any kind of commentary like that before? Like what is it, Mari, was it just his general being that you thought like, yep, this is a good fit? Or was there like a track record here? Like what's the history that gets you up to this point?
So I've never done official commentary. However, I do just in day-to-day life sometimes walk around and describe the things as, you know, in like goofy terms. And that kind of is the impetus. This will sound kind of silly. When I was growing up, we watched a lot of Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. I don't know if you've ever seen that show on Comedy Central.
No.
It's like Wipeout, but it's dubbed over from this other Japanese game show. And so they're saying one thing, but you're seeing it. And I just thought that was like the funniest thing in the world to have this like weird grouping there. And so we would do that whenever we're watching other shows, we would turn the audio off and then like do the voices or speak over it that way. That was the only version of commentary that I had ever done. But in terms of explaining things, I've taught for years and years, and that's kind of my default presentation mode. So my thought was, okay, well, with the commentary, let's talk about what people are seeing. Let's try to educate people a little bit about this really cool hobby in a way that they can learn from and kind of advance themselves a little bit in. One of my heroes is Ted Lasso, because he may not understand everything about that sport, but he does know enough of how to explain it and move on from there. I will say, I do now fully understand puzzling in a way that Ted Lasso probably doesn't understand football.
That is true. That is so accurate.
Yeah. But that's a big part of it. I didn't have any official experience, and I just I got very, very lucky that I got to learn from people and ask for a lot of feedback or across the way.
How did that first one go for you? Like, did it feel like you had found a home, or was it like work, or like I imagine
I was terrified.
But you were probably also excited. Like, it seems like the kind of thing that again, like you have an opportunity to now talk about things that in front of a bunch of people who might be really receptive to hearing about it. And I understand that, like, especially the very first time, you don't really know what other people know, and you don't really know what your context is in terms of that. And it's always a little nerve-wracking to just get up in front of a bunch of people. But like at the end of the day, at the end of that specific day, did you come away feeling like, yeah, this is pretty great? Or were you like, I could probably do it again? Like, what'd you come away with at the end?
I think my initial reaction was, oh gosh, I did terrible. I hope nobody got hurt. This is and I was like,
nobody
really
got hurt. What were you doing?
I don't know, man. I was in my head. I was worried about it. But I don't think it was until a couple days later, and I like listened back to it, that I was like, okay, this actually sounds okay. It's explaining a lot, and people like, I had some people reach out and say this was really handy, and I was like, okay, there's something here, and I can be helpful to the community with that skill set. And Michelle was nice enough to offer to have me on again, and so that kind of kept happening, and the uncertainty that I had about how it went, that window started shrinking more and more, and I started enjoying how it was helping other people more and more. So sort of that trading windows thing.
Do you have a regular schedule with the EJJ at this point, or you're not on every one of them? Is that true? Like, you didn't used to be, but I haven't listened to the last couple of episodes of EJJ this time. So is it still true that there are other folks that you allow to take that space sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. Or there are other people, and there 100% should be. Because I am not the only voice in speed puzzling by a long mile. Fergie and Catherine are wonderful human beings. Michelle has had a whole bunch of other guests on there, and I think that's really great. You don't want to have a single point of failure for a community. You want to make sure that you're getting other voices in there to help make sure that it stays stable and that it grows, right?
Mm-hmm. So then, are you on in a regularly scheduled fashion, or is it catch as catch can? If folks wanted to watch a live episode where you were commentating, how would they know that besides just getting a message that something is going live?
Usually Michelle sends out a note like the night before about who the commentary is going to be on the next episode. But often she'll send several of the commentators like, hey, here's a schedule. What can you try to pick up? And so it is a little random from that aspect, because I also have a full-time job right now. And so I'm juggling that and looking at those time scales and when those meetings line up. So I want to be on there as much as possible, but it doesn't always work out.
Some of these competitions are like, what, 4 a.m. your time?
Yeah, it's a good time. Get to wake up and smell the puzzle dust, man.
Which is funny, because I note that you will be announcing and Mari will be competing. So the house is going on at 4 a.m. at your place.
Well, in fairness, I stopped doing the 4 a.m. EJJs. At first, I was doing them. And so I was like to work that hard that early, and then I would get jet lagged without leaving the time zone. So I had to make myself a promise that I wasn't going to compete 4 a.m.s anymore. But I do get up with Jim because I want to listen to him. And but it's different, getting up and competing. Although I'm going to break that next weekend. Sammy Brownlow and I are going to do a pairs EJJ marathon, and it will be at 4 a.m. and Jim is commentating. So it's going to be a whole house thing. It's going to be great.
So what was the first time, Jim, where you were commentating and Mari was competing? Was that significant in any way? It seems like that could be odd or fun or...
I think the thing that I get most nervous about is showing too much favoritism to Mari, which oftentimes unfairly and unfortunately turns into almost avoidance, and I don't always enjoy that. But
we got teased. It was so funny reading back the comments in the YouTube chat of the stream from Worlds, especially during my quals round where the camera was on me because I was doing well, and people in the chat were teasing Jim and I going, oh, we hope Mari wins, not necessarily because we want her to win, but because we want to hear Jim interview her like she's a total stranger. It was really funny because we really, Jim is so careful about, he doesn't want anything that he says to make it look like I have an unfair advantage. I've dealt with things like some really nasty business in other competitive fields where, people will come up with this idea of like so-and-so's cheating or so-and-so knew this, blah, blah, blah. And we know there's been a lot of stress on the puzzle world with leaked images and all sorts of things. And, Jim's always worried if people think he's commentating, that means he knows the puzzle and he's feeding it to me. And it is beyond the opposite. Like Jim is always saying Caesar's wife must be above reproach. And it's really true. So yeah. In the house, when he's commentating, we're on separate floors, and I can't listen to his commentary while I'm puzzling. So the joke is I do every EJJ twice. I puzzle, and then I go back and listen because I want to support Jim and listen to all his brilliance, but I can't do that while I'm doing my job either.
When I first heard, Jim, you announce an EJJ, which was, it wasn't the first one. I think you had done number 12, and I didn't catch you till 22. But I immediately reached out because I was like, oh, well, this is obviously amazing. Like our first Instagram conversations were Jim going, hey, I listened to your podcast. It's really great. And then me going, I just listened to your live stream. It's amazing. So I say that in a kind of gently amusing way, but it was really true. Like, I feel like, Jim, you bring a lot to the table when it comes to commenting. Like I said, you bring great support. You're amazing at just kind of continuing like lines of conversation going on. Like if somebody walks away for 10 minutes, like you can fill that space, but in the best way, right? Like you can comment on what's going on. You have the ability to really see what people are doing in a way that even when I am watching it, even on a giant screen, I'm like, how did he see that? How is he watch? He's commenting on that, but he's already seen what's going on over on this other part of the screen. And then he's going to move over to comment about that. But one of the great things that I love about the way that you do commentary is that not only are you supportive of every person, but you are the pinnacle example, I think, of how to drive excitement into a sport. Like I personally think that jigsaw puzzling is super engaging. Like I love to watch it. Like I will watch it all the time. And I'm always like, yeah, I'm not going to watch this round because I'm going to go get some food, except that it started and now I can't stop watching it. But not everybody feels like that, weirdly. And when it comes down to the last, like when the very first people are starting to finish, your ability to raise the energy of the room, your ability to drive the excitement, your ability to get people engaged in the drama of the moment, I think is exceptional. And I love that every time. I had the opportunity to sort of build my own schedule for the Portland Jigsaw Masters, and it was not even a question to me that I wouldn't invite you to be in the finals area, because I knew that would bring a level of quality, that would bring a level of excitement that is important in the competitive jigsaw puzzling world. So I just wanted to acknowledge, like, really, I just brought you on here so I could fanboy over these things, and also on Mari as well. Like, this is collective. But I think that if folks haven't had a chance to listen to Jim announce something, you should definitely go find an EJJ and listen, because not only are you going to experience what other people experience other sports like, because there's an announcer who treats it like other sports and conveys it in that way, but you are going to learn a ton, even if you are a master of things, right? Because the observations that Jim makes as part of the Jim Murray brain duality are insightful. They're unique. You guys did your, what was it, Terminology Tuesdays?
Yep.
The level of thought that clearly exists in the background to say the things that you say in the foreground is amazing. And I strongly encourage anybody to go out and consume that, because I think that it will change how you think about competitive jigsaw puzzling. Now, having said all that,
plethora, that means a lot.
We could go on, and I could go on, but we are running out of time. And as I was afraid, we didn't even talk about anything that WickedQuick has done. I have so many questions about the process, about how you guys, Mari, got to where you got in terms of making WickedQuick an entity that is super thoughtful. And like, do you have rule books, and how did you, like, what kinds of observations did you make, and like all kinds of things. So where I am landing on this is that we're probably going to have to do another episode at some point, because there's just so much that I still want to extract from you, from the mundane to the sublime, and we're just not going to get to that today. So if I can get you to commit on air to the fact that you will come back as a pair and continue this conversation.
Oh, we'll talk with you anytime. Yeah. Anytime. Yeah. We love nerd sniping us is as easy as falling into bed. So. Well,
and I promise to say I continue to say at least this amount of good things about you in the next episode as well, as a temptation to come back. So I think let's jump into the speed round. So this is gonna be really interesting, because the questions that I have are typically aimed at a puzzler, Mari. So these are things I think you'll be able to be like, yeah, I have an opinion on that. But I'm interested in, Jim, if you have perspectives on these as well. I'm not sure how you will, but I feel confident in your ability to have an opinion on things. So let's just jump in and see. But let's start with Mari. Gradients, patterns, or fur?
I work very hard to not have an opinion, because the puzzle doesn't care if I like it or not.
All right. Classic. Jim?
Patterns. I'm not as classy.
I have a strange feeling I'm going to get the same answer to many of these questions, given how Mario answered the last one. But illustration or photo?
Again, I work really hard to not. I mean, this is part of wanting to be a Swiss Army knife, right?
Yeah.
If I think I like one, then I'm going to struggle on the other, because I go in thinking, oh, I don't like this. And Jim has a great language around this. He says, you got to make friends with this puzzle for the next. And then he says a time that he wants me to hit for the next 32 minutes. This puzzle is your favorite puzzle. And then at minute 33, you can hate it, swear at it, set it on fire, whatever you like.
Do you find that you can actually do that?
Did I actually set a puzzle on fire? Yes.
Well,
yes,
no. Okay, that too.
It did not smell great.
It did not smell great. No, it really didn't.
It was not a good situation.
But can you remove yourself from having an opinion? Yes. Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Busy or landscape?
See, aforementioned. Jim, would you like to answer that?
I enjoy coaching people on the puzzles that they have difficulty with, which is usually the busy ones.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting to things that your prior answer won't necessarily cut it for Mari, but I think this may not be it. Round or square?
Oh, okay.
You don't have to answer because you feel pressured.
Squares are demonstratively usually a little faster, but there's something very appealing about a circle. I also love puzzles that like make you figure them out. So I have had more fun on a higher percentage of circles than I have rectangles.
Interesting. Jim?
I gotta go with rectangles, because I think you can get more interesting images on them right now.
That's true.
I'm really hoping that the circles can prove me wrong in the near future.
Yeah.
That feels like there's some insight that
Some
background knowledge that you have, or you're just
nope.
Okay.
He's just he's putting it out there.
No,
out in the world.
I'm cautiously optimistic that there's circles are starting to become more in vogue, which usually means that you can get more interesting things on them rather than having like, oh, here's a safe image. So I'm hoping it's the case that as circles become more standard, that we can get some neater images on it.
Wood or cardboard?
I'm a cardboard person. I love wooden puzzles, but they are like the fine art of puzzles, and I am the street urchin of puzzling. So I'm in awe of the wooden people. I've gotten to do one or two. They're great. I suck at them.
Yeah, I was going to say these. If you were looking for, it seems like the pre-speed puzzling Mari might have appreciated the challenge that a wood puzzle brings, because it seems like one might spend more time with them.
Yes, but one spends a lot more money on them, and if the reason you're a street urchin is you don't have any cash, you don't get wooden puzzles because people don't put those in their trash. Where I was getting them, but most of my puzzles. So,
Jim,
I think as a fidget toy, the wooden puzzles, in terms of just sit down and do the thing, cardboard.
Individuals, pairs, or teams?
Ooh, I think I got to go pairs.
Pairs?
I think I got to go pairs. I really, really love pairs. The best functioning teams, if you're really, really doing everything you can, each individual can at maximum be functioning at 60 or 70% of their maximum capacity, because you just don't have a big enough slice of the space or the knowledge of what's going on.
Right.
A high functioning pair who's really, really connected, communicating well, and working the space very well can function at close to 90% of their individual capacity, and you have company. So it is like the perfect balance of you're able to put that much of your maximum into it, but you have somebody else to balance that sort of thing with.
Who are you pairing with at Nationals?
Hannah Sigler.
Okay, you guys are becoming last year. Thing.
We've been a thing all this season. Yeah. She's wonderful. Yeah. I love every time I get to pair with her. She's lovely.
Jim, individuals, pairs, or teams?
Yes. If you can see the table well, teams. I think you can get a lot of really cool dynamics out of that. You can learn a lot from individuals, and I think as a happy middle ground between the two pairs, but teams, you definitely is really, really fun to watch if you can get a good view for it.
That's funny. Jim thinks pairs is the middle ground, and I think it's the ideal mix. That's really funny.
It's a difference between the competitor and the observer portion of things. Yep. It sounds like.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm going to ask these slightly differently because of the aforementioned ways that you've answered previous questions.
We messed up your system.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's what systems are for. Jim's doing a great job.
Jim is doing a great job. A+.
Does cut matter to you?
I really like all cuts, and the more interesting the cut, the more into it I am. I love figuring out cuts. I'm a shape worker, so I really, really love cuts.
Jim, perspective on cuts?
I think random cut is inherently more difficult than standard, or than like ribbon or grid. So I think it's interesting to see people work through random cut. Yeah.
What about piece count?
Ooh, piece count. Each piece count offers you something different, right? And it brings out different parts of your puzzling. I'm sorry, I've broken the system. Just no, I am the sledgehammer.
It is a little bit like asking a politician something. Is like like.
No,
every piece count matters. Every piece count is great.
Well, no, it's not just everyone matters and everyone is great. Everyone brings out a different part of your puzzling. So I am probably, at my nature, a distance puzzler, because all I ever did, this is a rather large crowd, right? People who come from what's now called casual puzzling. Most of us are brought up thinking that anything under than 1,000 is a baby puzzle, right? And to do a 500 is really baby. To do a 300 is really, really baby. And I certainly came in with that, like 300, why would you do that? But the 300 sprint, you have to be so incredibly accurate there is, because the time scale runs so short, it's unbelievably unforgiving. So the first big boost in my speed time is when I started really training the 300 sprint. And I'm not a sprinter by nature. I got my sprint in shape by, brute force. And my 300s, like if I go over 20 minutes, I'm mad. And that really changed my distance puzzling. So yeah, I will leverage the cut to get what I want out of my puzzling.
Do you have a current favorite brand? So help me if you give me that same answer again.
I know I can do better. I mean, that same answer is true, but on top of that, I really, really, really love Cobble Hill. There's so much character in their puzzles, in the cut and in the image. I really, really enjoy it. I've had a lot of fun with Puzzle Twist, spent a lot of time with those, getting ready for the recent Winter Carnival. And then when I'm like not necessarily speed puzzling and I'm just looking for like a gorgeous experience, the visually and tactilely, I love Reverie. Oh my gosh, that's the Rolls Royce of puzzling. I only have a couple. What a treat.
I will say, because we didn't get a chance to go through the entirety of what your journey has been like, congratulations on the Winter Carnival solo.
Oh, thank you.
I only got to watch the beginning of it, but I'm going to do a brief aside here. It is a moment where I really got to deeply internalize how much the initial flip is a fingers piece of work and not a hands piece of work.
Yeah.
And it was watching you do that is like your hands were fairly stable. Your fingers were doing lots of things. And when I'm generally flipping, it's a much more wrist-based activity. And so watching you do that, like, it really stood out in terms of like how that is done. You're not the only one who does it. A lot of the sort of elite folks do, but I really noticed it with you in a way that sunk into me, that I was like, oh yeah. Obviously, if you can get your fingers to do that, then you're not wasting movements with your wrists. So it was I only got to watch the first 10, 15 minutes, but it was a joy to watch, and congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Jim, do you have a favorite brand?
To teach on, this is gonna sound kind of weird. I think Remarks to teach on, in terms of just what the image is. Maybe Cobble Hill or Reverie are kind of up there for me. Elena Essex is good.
Oh, love Elena Essex.
Now I'm going into like everything is everything mode. Sorry.
Do you have a favorite puzzle?
I have a group of favorite puzzles. They're the puzzles, when we're puzzling, so many puzzles come through our lives, and some of them you enjoy, and some of them you're like, this will be in my house when it burns down at the end of the world, right? This is one of my core heart puzzles. And I gotta say, the Escher puzzle that Jim talked about, I love that puzzle. It's his, and it's the first one we did together. Magnificent experience. So that stands out to me as like an all-time awesome. And I gotta say, the Nathaniel Mortensen 1000, the Hobbit hole that appeared at Nationals teams last year, I love his artwork. So fabulous. That puzzle, when my house burns down, that's something I'm leaving with. When I run out of the house, I'm grabbing that puzzle. Right? That's an amazing image. Really fun.
Jim?
I mean, the obvious answer is whatever puzzle I get to do with Mari. That's the easy one. I think a natural follow up is probably the that MC Escher pomegranate. I think that's very much a like special moment in history.
Where can people find more about you?
Well, I'm sure there's a most wanted list somewhere with us on it. But if you'd like to do less research, we both finally got talked into making Puzzlegram accounts, so we're both findable on Instagram. You can find Jim at nerd_puzzle.
And you can find Mari at Mari Loves Puzzles, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, there's no hyphens or anything like that.
No hyphens, no, that's too much work.
Yeah, and that's probably the best way to get a hold of us. We're also on the EJJs a whole bunch. You can see on the leaderboards inside of there. And Rob, I don't know if you know this already, but sort of a little behind the scenes thing. I got invited to do the World Series here
I
in a
did
couple
know
of
that.
months.
No, I saw the announcement of that.
Oh, lovely, lovely. So, people can watch that too, which will be really fun and hopefully exciting for folks.
Jim Eakins and Mari Black, thank you so much for joining me on Peace Talks. This was a wild ride, and I look forward to the next one.
Us too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll get another one in, and we'll get to all the nerdy questions too.
You're awesome, Rob. I love how you pulled the stories out of the puzzle world and like things that wouldn't come up in just casual conversation, and it's really fun. So what you're doing is spectacular, and it's a joy and an honor to be a part of it.
Thanks, Mari. Thanks to Karen Kent for providing additional research for this episode. Thanks for listening to Peace Talks. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at peace_talks, and you can send email to peacetalkscast@gmail.com.